great having you here. I suppose, first of all, for our audience here at the Sports Summit, you've played in the NFL, American football. I'm sure it's every American kid's dream to participate at this level of an elite sport like that, and it's a worldwide sport as well. But tell us about your career, just so as we know where you're coming from. What level did you reach?
Well, actually, I started off in track, so I wanted to become an Olympic-level athlete. That was always a dream when I was a kid, and football was just kind of something that I did in the off-season. But as elite as professional football is, it's not as elite as track athletes. There's one or two guys in the world, really, that can excel. So it made more sense to play football at that point. I ended up running track in college as well. I qualified for the Olympic trials, but I wasn't fast enough really to compete at the very elite level. So I played football. I played at Ohio State. I was drafted in the first round by the Minnesota Vikings in 1993 and ended up playing for 8 years.
Yeah, incredible. And what happened after the 8th year in that final season?
Well, I had some injuries throughout my career. In my first year in the NFL, I tore my ACL in my right knee. I tore my MCL and PCL in my left knee in '96. And then over the next couple of years, there were some problems that continued with the right knee in particular, because when I tore the ACL, I also cracked the bottom of the femur, and that articular surface with the cartilage that runs along the bottom of the femur that's supposed to be nice and smooth was jagged, and so they needed to do a procedure called microfracture. And so they did the microfracture in about '98, and then right after my last season, which was the only season I didn't miss any games in 2000, I had to have that done again, and said, you know, enough is enough. It's better to walk away early than to limp away late.
Was that your decision, or were there medical professionals at the club telling you, look, Robert, this can't go on?
Oh no, the team was shocked, and a lot of people were shocked that I walked away when I did. The doctor was a little bit surprised as well. Probably thought I could have played another few years on it, but it didn't make any sense to me. I'm 43 years old now. And I believe if I had continued to play, that the knee would have deteriorated more, and I would have been probably within a couple of years from a knee replacement.
Yeah, so you were 29 at the time.
28.
28.
Almost 29.
Did you walk away from a lucrative contract? Because we hear nowadays the millions that these players in the NFL that they earn. Did you walk away from something like that?
Yeah, I was going to be a free agent again, but I was drafted in the first round. I always made good money, and you know, the game took care of me.
Okay. How did you find the transition from leaving this elite level of sport in the public eye, playing in front of tens of thousands each week, to sitting at home trying to find something to do? How was that transition for you?
It's much more difficult than I ever thought it would be, and even though I made the decision myself, I think what we don't realize, and I think maybe some of us try and resist as athletes, is the idea that so much of your identity is tied up into what you are as a player. It's bizarre because people refer to you in the past tense when they talk about you. When they see you, they say, wow, you were a great player, or you were this, and you kind of internalize that, and it's like, well, what am I now? And so you don't have the competition from day to day. You aren't elite at anything anymore. So it can be very difficult, and you just really need to try and find something else that you're passionate about and try and get into that.
And you went to some dark places. Is that fair to say, after you stepped away from sport?
I'm sorry?
You went into some dark places in your personal life. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it was a tough transition. It's a tough transition for anybody. But alcoholism, addiction was in the family, and you know, all the time and money in the world, and traveling all over the place, and really started to get into that a little bit too much. And you know, I knew I never should have started drinking when I was younger because of the family history, but I did anyway, and really started to struggle at that point, and ended up stopping drinking probably about 5 or 6 years after I left the game the first time.
And what turned things around for you? Was there a moment? Was there a switch that you decided, I have to sort myself out here?
Well, they say that rock bottom for people that are alcoholics and addicts is the moment when you've lost or you're about to lose the thing that matters to you most. And for me, that was my wife and my daughter at that time. And I got sober this last time, and this is 5 days before my son was born. So it was pretty clear to me that something had to change, or I would lose the things that mattered most.
So tell us what you're doing right now, Robert, because this is a pretty unique sort of idea. Fan Health, how does that work? Just give us some background to it.
Yeah, so Fan Health Network, it's creating a community around sports teams and leagues and athletes as celebrities, but celebrities in general as well. And what we're trying to do is take something that people are already passionate about, their favorite schools in the United States or their favorite teams, whether it be basketball, football, what have you, and deliver the message of health and wellness. So people can actually not only get the information, they can access free workouts, things like that. They can see what these other athletes and celebrities do to help maintain their own healthy lifestyles, but eventually people will be able to have consultations with registered dietitians, personal trainers, things like that. So we're kind of delivering the message of health and wellness in the context of sports, where it's so natural, where you have performance and competition and achievement, and apply that to health. And so people can actually, and we have these challenges where people can compete against each other for prizes by living a healthy life. So we're having a lot of fun with it.
And what's the uptake been like on it? Is it something that, how does it appeal to people, do you think?
People love it, and it's been so fun to watch the competitions and the way that the people post throughout the competitions, and they try and keep up. And of course, with digital health progressing the way that it is, there are some objective comparisons. People can say, okay, well, I did 200 floors today, or I did 20,000 steps, what have you. So there are a lot of things that people can do, and we're really on the verge now of some campaigns on ESPN where we're going to do some advertising. We're going to work with some more high-profile players that we're bringing on as captains, so we're really excited.
Here at the Web Summit, we have a lot of entrepreneurs, we have a lot of business minds, not just sports people here, but I guess anyone here that is from that background is wondering, Robert, how do you make money from this? Is it legit in terms of, a serious concept in terms of making money? Do you mind if I ask you how you do that?
Yeah, so there are a couple of different paths. There is a general consumer version that is available right now. Fan Health Network is available on iOS and Android as it is right now. And what we're going to start doing is we're going to have sponsored challenges, and we may even have the app itself named for a particular sponsor. So it may be the Fan Health Network, brought to you by Nike or Kroger, which is a big grocery store. But they will have these sponsored challenges. They will also, in a version that we're going to be creating here soon, the captains, who are the former and some current NFL players and NBA and other sports, they have it's kind of like a timeline. It kind of operates the same way as Facebook or Twitter, and they do posts. And eventually, what we're going to program in is the ability for sponsors to actually have particular posts where it can be a learn more or buy it now kind of button, so that influencer will be advertising for maybe it's gym equipment, maybe it's Cheerios, maybe it's something like that. But eventually, what we're also going to do is get into the corporate wellness market. There's a real problem with engagement in the corporate wellness market in the United States. How do you keep people, your employees, healthier? And they love this concept of using sports and the athletes to keep people healthier. And so there will be some separate services that we're going to offer for them for their own companies, and that will be a per person per month fee that employer will be paying to us as well. So we're really excited about that part of it.
What's the uptake been like in terms of numbers? Are you able to put a figure on how many people you're engaging with?
It's somewhere around 4,000 or 5,000 right now. We haven't done our heavy promotions yet. We haven't run the ESPN promotion, and that's 20 million impressions that we're getting ready to put out there. So we're hoping that the uptake is going to be really good then.
And what about engagement with the sporting organizations, say like the NFL? Are they going to come on board, do you think?
We're already on with the NFL players. So the NFL, anytime you have a promotion that involves 6 or more current NFL players, you have to have a license with the NFLPA, which is the union for the NFL players. So we've already got them. And so we have, I believe, 4 or 5 current NFL guys now, and we're getting ready to expand that. The NFL, it's very expensive to get a sponsorship. Entry-level sponsorship with the NFL is high single-digit millions. So maybe we'll get a sponsor to do something like that. We're hoping to have some conversations with Microsoft about that. Microsoft already works with the NFL. They have their Surface tablets on the sideline exclusively. So maybe getting involved with them will kind of help us expand.
Sort of a roundabout way in.
Yeah,
is that what you're looking at?
But we're also talking with an MLS team in the United States, the Columbus Crew, about getting some of their players and about doing some advertising for them. And so we're working exclusively with Ohio State. We've got their logo, and so we're looking to expand it really kind of through the colleges and through the teams.
And what about Europe? Are we going to see you guys here?
Well, we'll see about that.
One step at a time.
One step at a time. We're gonna start off with the United States and then see how it goes from there.
In terms of American football, and I'm going down the line now of player welfare. How has the game changed from when you played, which wasn't so long ago, to the game we have now, just in terms of player welfare and the hits that are going in, the impacts that are being made, and the injuries players are suffering?
Well, I think the focus on head injuries and concussions, that's been a primary focus, and I think that's been something that's a dramatic change from when I played. It used to be that as long as you could go to the sideline and speak, that you were fine to go back into a game. Now there's a concussion protocol that the players have to go through. There's an independent observer that's up in the press box, and if they see that a player is stumbling or exhibiting any other signs of head injury, they can call down and have the player essentially removed from the game and forced to go through this protocol. And what they do are they have these baseline tests, and so once a player has been diagnosed with a concussion, they cannot return to play until they reach that baseline. So the recognition and treatment of the concussions it's much more advanced than when I played.
Sure, and it's obviously a big issue here as well, particularly in the sport of rugby, the concussion issue. Do you think that sports like NFL and rugby, which is a huge sport here in the Northern Hemisphere, do you think in terms of, I suppose, the collisions and the physical nature of the sport, that they're getting to a stage where it's nearly gone too far now, that the hits are too big?
Well, there's risk and reward for everything that you do. You look at the actual numbers for children in the United States. There are far more children that are injured riding their bikes. Soccer, the number, especially for women's soccer in the United States and the young girls in the United States, the numbers of concussions are very high there as well. So there's a risk of injury in every sport, and I think you try and mitigate that risk as much as you can. And once again, I think when you recognize the symptoms, try and treat it as early as you can, and make sure that those players don't return, because the evidence has shown that people are far more susceptible to the second and third concussion if you get them back to play much too soon.
I don't know, certainly in rugby, they're talking here about changing rules, maybe just to take some of the contact out. Is that going to happen in NFL, do you think? Are they?
Well, they've already made some changes. There's what's called the targeting rule now, where there's much less helmet-to-helmet contact. when players are in a defenseless position, a receiver that happens to be extended, a player that comes and makes contact first with the crown of their helmet, they'll be penalized, thrown out of the game, and we've already seen a change. There aren't nearly as many helmet-to-helmet hits in the game. Quarterbacks that are defenseless when they're throwing the football, they're protected in a much better way now. So there are already some of those changes that are there. But to be truthful, you don't need to get hit in the head to get a concussion. Any movement of the head that's quick enough can cause a concussion. And actually, there's research now where they're looking into, this sounds crazy, they're looking into a neck device that actually keeps the blood from draining as quickly from the head so that the brain doesn't slosh around as much inside of the skull. And there's some proof of that concept because they've seen that there are less concussions at high altitude. So there's negative pressure outside of the skull, which increases the pressure inside. The brain doesn't move around as much. So maybe you'll see these neck devices worn sometime here in the next few years, which is, it sounds crazy, but the research is showing that it's worked. It's worked with the rats so far.
Watch this space. We're getting close to the end of our conversation, but obviously as a former player, some former sports people I speak to in my job, you know, they come away from sport and they actually don't enjoy it anymore. They're not guys that are going to sit down or they're not going to go and watch a game. Do you enjoy your former sport, American football? Are you able to be a fan?
Well, I'm not just a fan. I work for ESPN now as a college football analyst, and I'm the other way. I enjoy it more now than I ever did. And watching the college kids, we get to see them as they come out of high school, and we watch them progress. So I can see a kid when he's 16, 17 years old playing the game, and I have an opportunity to watch them all the way into the professional ranks. And now I've been doing it so long, I'm actually seeing some of those players retire. So it's amazing to me, and it's fun to watch them as they go all the way through the different levels.
Yeah, final question for you, Robert. I'll put my hand on my heart. I used to live in Boston when I was much younger, but I'm a Patriots fan, so I was pretty happy last season. What way is the Super Bowl 50 going to go this year? Who are you tipping to do the business?
Wow, I mean, I can't even imagine out of the NFC who it's going to be. I mean, Seattle is not playing really well. I mean, I would say that the Patriots are going to make it. Denver's really, really good defensively. Peyton Manning's getting a little bit long in the tooth. He's only about 4 years younger than I am.
Brady's not far off
I think it'll be the Patriots and probably the Packers. But the Packers didn't look very good against Denver the other night. But I think it's just because the Patriots and Denver are that much better on the other side.
Yeah, Robert Smith, it's been great talking to you. Thanks for coming to Dublin, and we hope to see you back here again, and maybe we can catch up sometime soon. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear from Robert Smith. Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.